So, hi everyone, today this video will be about a way that we should face and understand depression, anxiety, and any type of other type of disorder or mental disorder that we can face, the way that we should perceive why they are created, and obviously focusing more in the ones that probably are developed during our lifetime in order than just the ones that we can kind of be prone genetically and so develop. Is more talking about the way that we interact with world in the context that we are included on. That can be like the main have kind of get the main accountability for why these disorders can happen. So what science seems to say, the dopamine seems to be related a bit mainly with the occurrence of depression. So what do we know about depression? Depression seems, if we're talking about the feelings, how we feel, depression seems to feel like we're seeing the world in a way that, or is we're seeing a world like we're always trending to be a bit pessimist, so we tend to see the world in a bad way. We tend not to see like the world as free of any type of drift. So it kind of depression, I would say that if it's developed during our lifetime, a high correlation with depression seems to be we getting exposed to high stress. So the our body obviously it has the ability to get stressed. It's not because we cannot take stress, it's just that because if we get stressed, it's because our body seems to see any type of utility in getting stressed. That's so it's so important to look in that perspective and understand that we do not have like to always try to avoid stress. Stress is a response that our body triggers in order to sometimes getting prone to survive. In how if we go for our ancestors, that's they were the ones that they kind of get more utility of the way that we are. The reality that the stress response it kind of will give us not superpowers, but will make us stronger in the short term because when you get stressed, for example, we tend to get a higher performance in doing some type of jobs, intellectual jobs, and obviously talking about a stress that's controlled, a stress that's more a bit of in nature than just like a one that make us be enter in freeze mode. But even we talk about extreme situations, stress will kind of trigger in us responses that don't feel in pain. For example, a stress response will be useful if someone is in our ancestors have seen any type of thing that can put their lives in risk, probably a lion, a tiger. They will trigger the stress response for that small amount of time. They will like have increased heart rate, which could like give so ability to have more blood flow through their cells, which will create a higher performance in that small amount of time. But what's bad about stress? That if we are just always in that space of stress level, and nowadays, even if we're not like at that peak, we are always to be treating and having to understand that how our life is always in dangerous, but we face a lot of small stressors that happens and puts in a position of being in a stress level that is higher than the what will be the normal and usual one. And this is the one that so if our body is not in homeostasis, it enters so in a position that is always having to deal with stress that it kind of gets so diseases as something that's bad. And so that's why it's so important for ourselves. And with some of that, we have all things that science seems to be backed, doing exercise, practicing gratitude, having and feeling with people. Because when we are in tribes with relationships that we do like, we tend to be more secure, which decreases our perception of threats about the world can provide and expose it. So we're not always in a self defense type of mode. So it's something that's better. So I would say that one of the big ways that I could talk that's the reasons to have a lot of depression nowadays is this high amount of stress level that is higher than what will be the usual one and what will be so the way that her body is constructed is not to deal with and being always in a stress mode. It's one of the big ways. Obviously, we're talking about when you say these reasons, I'm talking about the psychological ones, because depression is like a disease, and as any type of disease has always a background of probably problems in don't sleeping, so we can't avoid sleeping. It's something that makes us bad and make us prone to have these mental disorders. We have obviously things as probably lack of exercise, being fat, uh, that type of stuffs that we know that they always have a correlation with any type of disease that can happen. They are like you cannot like see depression as something that has just one two reasons. We see depression as a multifactorial, but the video will be about the reasons that contribute to depression that are more involved with the psychological ones. So the psychological way that we approach the world. So that's why some people that tends to be more insecure, some people that have like less self-esteem tends to be the ones that have higher proportion to be present in the spectrum of depression, because they tend to be the one by being kind of characterized psychological in that way. They so will have some type of response, some ways to understand the world that makes so a trigger that makes our bodies to be more stressed than the normal one. So one of them, so that we have to look if we want to treat depression, is really important to make a reconfiguration the way that we perceive the world, and so working and being present and seeing if our basal of stress level is should be so more equal to what we consider as normal than just being wholly stress. We not deal well with that. And so why and what are like the tools that I'm should and I want to provide is using the Pareto law. And what's the how useful and why Pareto law is useful? Pareto law is, it says that 20% of things tends to determine 80% of outcomes. And so we not have always a need, and we don't have always to treat the things as they are crucial. We have to understand in our day we cannot be stressed, because always being stressed make us feeling bad, and so being more prone to have these mental disorders. What you have to look instead is selecting in max five like type of activities in my day that are like the ones which I'm gonna get more prone to be. I'm gonna make me. I'm gonna like enter a permission to feel stressed when I'm doing this type of actions, because they are ones that are crucial. So imagine that I'm as a people, what I do. I want to do health, and I want to have like money. I want to have like ability to perform in my job. So what is the type of things that will be rational to look and intelligent? So I probably, what are things that I have to give my max? Probably I will do, and I will look that one of these is exercise. I want to give my, while I'm working, that I can like establish as like 1 hour. I will say that this hour I'm going to give my max, because it seems to say that science that doing exercise is one of the high predictors to having longevity, and longevity is like one of the main targets that people tend to have, having longevity, having health. Other one, the other activity that I say that's really important is a section of morning of my work that I will say that during 2 hours I'm gonna give my best. I'm gonna be 2 hours that I'm always trying to perform better. So normally during that hours a bit more stress I'm gonna feel than just being relaxed. But as Pareto law says, 2 hours focused in of deep work tends to be better than just like 4 hours of not being in deep work and being more diffuse. And during these 4 hours, even if I'm not like really deep, really trying to be my best, a bit perfectionist, like I'm trying to trigger you to be in that type in this 2 hours, but your stress levels will be a bit more higher than in your relaxed zone. And you will probably see that your productive ratio, so the time and outcomes that you create in comparison with the costs that we have, probably will be not something good. And obviously this is something that I'm saying, but obviously we have to look and understand that it's depending as well of what jobs you have. So, or someone a bit more curious, like someone that works in manufacturing, which requires of them always being in a constant process zone of production. And so in that cases, I have to get plasticity of always trying to modulate and understand that if it's a reality one is someone, I have so to modulate to having this objective of not always being stressed, so understanding so how they can work, so trying to be effective. I'm always have to work, so but how I so increase my ability to produce in this workflow that is to be continued out requiring from me a lot of effort, a lot of things that obviously will make me have always the whole pressure, and it's something that I don't like. So really important then not being stressed bring a lot of things. Defining some specific schedules in our day-to-day life that I'm gonna give the deep work, I'm gonna be more stressed, and other ones that I'm relaxed because it's the way that our bodies were made to be. They were made to be to having the ability to kind of get a bit stressed during a small amount of time, and we have periods of rest, not just being always and always. So that's why it's important to be lean. Lean is something that gives you and makes you go long, and so a good journey in this life. But other just like cortisol levels and stress levels in the normal stress levels that you can do. Have other thing that I think it's important is looking for our dopamine. It's other one of the two features on that video is that, so the last one that's important to understand to not fall in these mental disorders. And so what's the work of dopamine? Dopamine, it's a neurotransmitter that's involved in reward, motivation, and pleasures. And so it's important to understand that it tends to be the one that is correlated with expectancy. So we tend to feel dopamine when we have like a perception that if I do a specific type of activity, I can expect to receive a specific type of price in the future if I do the activity well. So it's something that triggers us motivation. So dopamine tends to have a relation with moving us acting, how we act. And what you see normally people that mainly the ones that have depression, what's like a behavioral tendency that we will look and you will understand that exists in these people. We will see that a lot of these people, they tend to don't have like a willingness. They don't want like to do nothing. And so what do we seem to be related? People that tends to have these mental disorders, mainly depression, we tend to see that they have a lower type of willingness of motivation to work in outside world, and they're normally more rounded for their inner side. And why this is important? It seems that these people tend to have lower levels of dopamine in the basal level. Now, talking as well again about normal levels, that they tend to have like lower levels in comparison with people that we could call that don't have these disorders. And one of the reasons that so we can see like the explosion of these type of mental disorders today. We have something today that even it's more heavy than whatever it was, that it kind of makes the opposite of regulate our levels of dopamine. No, it kind of, if you see like the dopamine levels as a heart rate, we have normal heart rate. But what you can do, people that have diseases, now probably they can have like moments that their heart rate too much higher, other ones that probably have their heart rate too much lower, and so it's not the normal, it's not what we want. And so it's important to don't have like our dopamine levels that are correlated with our motivation to act towards the outside world being regulated. And what makes it the opposite, so not regulate and regulate, it's probably drugs. Drugs is one of the things. People that have drugs, they tend to have getting addiction, and addictions they have suffer when they are like in ecstasy, and when they're done not with their drugs, they tends to be in really small levels and tends to be so prone to depression. And other thing is social media, and mainly the what I call as short-term pleasures that we have. One of these everyone understands, a word that starts by P, that has a specific vowel next, and next letters are FN. So everyone knows it's a syndrome that a lot of people see, and something that it triggers. So it's one of the things that most trigger in us dopamine. And the reality is, when you're so exposed to this type of things, that they are so they kind of trigger, it has so much dopamine that when you're not like our reference level, what is pleasure, it's so high. Then now the things that we tend to see, they like the normal things in our life, it tends to be something that don't give us pleasure. So our basal level tends to be low. We tend not to have like willingness to do nothing, because we kind of already were exposed to things, as I said, D, R, U, G, and things that's P, O, R, N. We see things like that. We have social media is one of the things that is well important when we are overexposed to this social media, these reels, that they are like a lot of things that we get is pleasurable to see all that small videos without having just like to give any type of high effort, just like scrolling. These things that make us understand and make us so hard to understand that you can get pleasures like easily. And so any type of thing that is, it should be something that is not should be triggered to us too much energy to do, to trigger the action, as is exercise. We don't have any type of motivation to do it. A specific type of willingness to wake up and having the ability to, even knowing that if we are in our bed we were like hot, and obviously having to be get exposed to a bit of cold when we lack and we fell off the bed, so go there on natural day. People that are exposed to that things kind of make their brain learn that they don't have to suffer these type of small things, like these type of small things that obviously doesn't give pleasures, but are kind of ones that are needed to have like the flow of our life. And people like that, they have reference levels too much higher. They have accused with their brain with things that are so much pleasure that so make us bad, make us like get bad with bad habits. Their brain gets bad habits, and so it's like getting bad education. Your brain gets bad education, and so evolves the disorders, because the natural day will not be like that small things that our brain really gets used to, that are too much dopamine, that our brain is not made to always being to face. I'm not saying that we have to avoid at all costs these things. It's something that I will not do, neither one time, but it's not by doing one time or two that it's gonna enter already and being already in the spectrum of having these disorders. But it's something that we really have to care, because these things tends to not to regulate our brain. It does the completely opposite, make us having liver levels too much high in comparison with the things that should be something that we should desire, as doing exercise, connecting with people, but we don't have willingness because other things are even easier than that and triggers more. So just like better benefits, but in what matters in reality, it's something that it doesn't translate, and so make us don't doing the actions that really matter. So the thing that I will say is to avoid, and how to avoid working with our psychology. So understanding what makes action being desirable, not, and working with them. I have a video that I've talked about how to make and how to do like, and how to build habits that are positive, and habits are like doesn't exist, doesn't have like being someone that sees PORN, someone that don't consumes DRUES. So then that stuffs that are important, and we have to take care, and you just doesn't, we should not enter in how to pilot mode and thinking that we are like able to don't, and we are stronger and we can resist later on if I start develop wish for doing these type of things, because that tends to be something that really threats our well-being. So with that video, I expect you to be more self-aware about how the depression kind of can be dealt, and how we can like try to prevent, in talking about the psychological way, so the way that we do the world, the way that we behave. And so see you in the next one.